Sport compacts like the Honda Civic Si and Volkswagen Golf GTI are a lot of fun, but sadly carry price tags that may be a tad steep for some. Luckily, there are more affordable versions of each car that still offer more attractive looks than their four-door counterparts, and manual transmissions for maximum motoring excitement. The question now is seeing what exactly you get for $20,000. Today I'm driving the Civic Coupe. Visually, it's a far cry from the dull previous generation Civic, with the design featuring a more distinctive face, curvy body lines, flashy alloy wheels, and LED daytime running lights. And I happen to think it looks fantastic. Powering is a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine with 158 horsepower and 138 pound-feet of torque connected to a 6-speed manual transmission. It's got a fuel economy rating of 26 miles per gallon in the city and 38 miles per gallon on the highway. And the cost of this slick little number, just $19,885.
As for me, I'm in charge of representing an archetype of vehicular sensibility, the Volkswagen Golf. This one might look relatively similar to its forebears, but rest assured it is an all-new car atop an all-new chassis. This specific car is the TSI S model, equipped with a 1.8-liter turbocharged inline-4, good for 170 horsepower and 199 pound-feet of torque. Mated to a 5-speed manual transmission, this not-so-hot hatch achieves 25 mpg city and 37 mpg highway. And all for $20,395 out the door. Daily driving the Volkswagen Golf TSI S is actually quite lovely, by virtue of the fact that it has smaller wheels, it has larger sidewalls on the tires, which allow it to soak up the bumping and jostling and kind of the bad experiences of being on the road. And if you live in Michigan, most of the roads are a bad experience. One of the benefits of moving up to the TSI S from the base model is this lovely 6.5-inch infotainment touchscreen. It has a proximity sensor, so when you move your hands close, everything gets a little bit bigger and the dock kind of pops up and gives you a few more options. What you also get with it is what Volkswagen calls App Connect, which is its own proprietary system of connecting your phone and your infotainment system to kind of expand its abilities. Another benefit that comes with this infotainment system is Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Both bring the power of your smartphone, whether it's apps or just the general user experience, from your phone to the touchscreen infotainment system. What the Golf loses by having 2 doors, it makes up for with its hatchback. Adding height to the roof gives rear seat passengers loads of headroom, although its legroom leaves a little bit to be desired when compared around the segment. The hatch also makes cargo storage a breeze, with a large, low trunk opening and 22.8 cubic feet of space. With the rear seats folded flat, you can fit just about anything back there, except maybe a full-size refrigerator, as cargo volume expands to 52.7 cubic feet. The rest of the interior is quite nice in its simplicity. I know Volkswagen is usually on the conservative side of design, but I really think that the Mark 7 Golf's general layout of the dashboard and the wheels and the gauges, it all kind of speaks to a higher price point than you're actually getting. This doesn't really feel like a $20,000 car, it feels more like a $30,000 car, which is actually great because when you buy the $30,000 Golf, you get exactly the same thing.
Like I said with the outside, I'm also a fan of the interior. It's not a boring design in here. It's actually got a nice layered look to it, and it's built from nice materials. On top of that, the seating position, at least for me, is really comfortable, and it stays impressively quiet in here on the road. With 2 less doors, function obviously takes a back seat a little in the Civic Coupe. Even still, front passengers won't have any space issues, and there's a decent amount of legroom in back, but the Coupe's faster roofline means rear headroom does suffer, which is still fine for shorter passengers, but taller occupants probably will not enjoy spending an extended period of time back there. Overall, the cabin does feel rather spacious though. The interior is intuitively laid out with clearly marked entertainment and climate controls, and there are plenty of cubbies to hold items. As for the trunk, it features a large opening to make loading and unloading items nice and easy, and while it doesn't match the Golf's outright cargo carrying capabilities, the Civic's trunk still features a not too shabby 12.1 cubic feet of space. And if you have to transport longer items, the rear seats easily fold down. So it's not entirely bare bones in here. There are some premium features, kind of like steering wheel audio controls, automatic headlights, and an automatic climate control system. As for the tech menu inside of the Civic LX, it's a little light. There's a 5-inch colored central infotainment screen, there's a 4-speaker sound system, there's Bluetooth, there's got USB ports. If you want stuff that's more advanced, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, navigation, satellite radio, that doesn't become available until you get to the EX models. Some owners may want to safely push their cars a little harder, possibly during a weekend track day with some modifications, or on a tire-torturing autocross like this one, where we'll really be able to see what these cars are made of. So out on a tight autocross like we have here, it's kind of like the worst enemy to a front-wheel drive car, especially one on all-season tires. This car is on Firestones. which aren't the greatest. There's not too much grip there. But even still, when you throw into a corner, you can kind of manipulate the car, do some left foot braking, try to get the rear end around, and it does it fairly well that way. So power from the 2-liter engine is pretty good. It's a linear power band. From mid-range all the way up to redline, it pulls really nicely to help you get out of these tight corners around this track. The 6-speed manual, I think Honda makes the best manuals out there, and it's no different here in the Civic. Just nice, smooth, fluid shifts, a nice light clutch that's easy to modulate. Steering, nice, light, accurate, not too much feedback, and it does all right out here.
Here with a $20,000 Volkswagen Golf, we're not expecting a lot of power and we're not getting a lot of power, especially with this tall gearing. It makes it very awkward on the autocross course. Half the time you're not even in the torque range. Here's what I like about the Golf on the autocross course. The steering is absolutely lovely. Turning is super sharp. It feels like there's just the right amount of weight over the wheels, so even when you have your angle locked in, you think you're gonna give it, if you give it just a little bit more, it'll kind of tuck in and go with it.
I had a lot of fun tossing these little compacts around on the street and in the autocross, and I have to say there's a lot of things about the Golf that I do like. For instance, it does ride a little more comfortably on the road. It's a little tighter in the autocross, and obviously it wins the competition for cargo carrying.
Absolutely, I agree with all those things, and I really do think those are all valid points. There are plenty of things I like about the Civic as well. I do quite like the 6-speed manual transmission. I do find the 5 lacking in the Golf. I also happen to enjoy the engine. It feels a bit peppier despite being downrated compared to the Golf, once again. And overall, I really do like the styling. You know, I originally thought I was more a fan of the demure kind of Golf attitude, but really that rear end on that Civic is just, it's one of the hottest looking cars there is.
So what didn't you like about the Honda then?
Well, when it comes to dislikes, I think the dashboard is a bit too long. It kind of cuts into the interior space a bit and makes it feel a bit more cavernous when it might not necessarily need to be. I think it rides a bit more stiffly as well, which kind of ruins the daily drivability just a smidge. As for you, what sort of trash talk do you have for the Golf?
Well, that small turbo engine, I'm sorry, is dead below the waist. The 5-speed manual transmission, it's geared way too high, and the styling of the car, it's boring in my opinion. But we're at the end of this little shindig, which means one thing, we have to pick a winner, and honestly, it's a lot harder than I would imagined.
When it comes down to it, if one of these cars is 100, the other is a 98. And against all my logic and everything I would have thought coming into this, I'd have to pick the Civic.
I'm actually pretty much exactly on the same page as you, and so that means the winner of this roadshow shootout between $20,000 compact cars is the Honda Civic.